This conference will now be recorded.
All right. So again, welcome everyone to tonight's Race Day Ready webinar, as we will be talking about and focusing on this year's TCS New York City Marathon, and which takes place this Sunday, November 3rd, as if you all didn't know that already. But we're going to talk about this week. Obviously, we're in race week. We're already a couple days in. We're going to talk about this weekend, race weekend. We're going to get into race morning and talk about Start Village. We're going to talk about the race itself, talk a little strategy, talk a little post race, touch on a little inspiration, and then we'll get you on your way. So again, thank you to those of you who have made the live webinar tonight. I know many of you are going to be checking out the webinar, the recording between now and Sunday. So I'm grateful to all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules. So as we get started, it's important to remember why you started in the first place, why you decided to run in the New York City Marathon. Many of you who are listening or will be listening / viewing this webinar are running for a really great charity that I'm privileged and honored to be involved with from a coaching standpoint. And so threw up a few logos of those various charities, and then some of you are individuals that have secured your entries, whether through the lottery or as a time qualifier. No matter what your story is or how you got into the race, it's important right now to reconnect with why you started and to keep that close to your heart as we approach race weekend. Maybe it's for someone else, or you're running in honor of someone else, for somebody else in your life, or maybe you're running for yourself. No matter what that is, keep that, like I said, close to your heart, and remember that, especially during the tough times during the race, because we're tackling 26.2 miles. And we'll get into that. We'll get into the ups and the downs of the race and how to navigate those. But I just want to just also throw a special shout out to these great charities. And again, I'm privileged and honored to be associated with them. So it's race week, and we're going to talk best practices. And I think the one that's most prominent on my mind is just keeping things super simple. We've been at it for, gosh, anywhere between 16 to 20 weeks. And there's certainly no need to reinvent the wheel here. We want to eat the same foods. We want to work out / run at the same time. We want to focus, put an especially increased focus on sleep and prioritize that this week, especially Monday through Friday, as many will find Saturday night, the night before the race, challenging to get some sleep or get quality sleep. Many of you will be staying in a foreign bed or sleeping in a foreign bed, whether be at a hotel or somebody else's place. And so taking advantage of this week and getting plenty of rest is important. We should already have our race day shoes, and ideally they should be gently worn. I like to say anywhere between 25 to 75 miles approximately on those shoes. Certainly there's wiggle room there. But hopefully you've got at least a few miles in the shoes that you plan to wear on Sunday. Now is definitely not the time to try a new gel or an electrolyte drink. And of course, but it goes without saying, but sometimes things happen, missed workouts happen, and we tend to want to make up for those, as runners tend to obsess over missed workouts. So if that happens this week, that's okay. You want to stick to your training plan. Continuing on with some best practices, and especially as you get towards the middle part of the week, tomorrow, Thursday, if you have small children, have you solidified your childcare plans? Hopefully that is the case. I like to be packed and ready to go by Wednesday or Thursday of the week. This gives me plenty of time to make any sort of last minute changes, and certainly it will give you peace of mind as you head into race weekend and you start to travel. I know many of you are traveling into the city late Wednesday, tomorrow night, early Thursday, as the expo opens on Thursday. And so you like to get in there nice and early and get that taken care of, which is awesome. So, even tonight or tomorrow, getting a lot of those things finished up is ideal. And as we'll talk a little bit more about this in depth. But as you pack, think about what you want to wear in the race. right? So right now the conditions are looking pretty fair. I believe Saturday New York is calling for a high in the low to possibly mid 50s, but you have to remember, you've got the Start Village to navigate, which is really early in the morning, and it's going to be cold. So you're going to want to dress warmly while you're waiting around to start. But then when you get going, you want to be able to shed layers if needed, because as you get going, your core body temperature is going to heat up 10 to 15 degrees, and it's going to feel warmer than let's just say 52 degrees is going to feel more like 62 to 65 degrees. If you're running with your own nutrition and hydration, have everything ordered and in hand, ideally by now, but certainly by midweek this week. If you're driving or flying, obviously you just want to make sure one more time with the airline or with the vehicle, make sure that there's no sort of servicing that needs to take place. There's no issues that could delay or inhibit your entrance into the city. You might want to, it'd probably be worthwhile to give the hotel one last check-in to make sure that everything's all good with your reservations. And then as we talk about race hydration, prioritizing race hydration really starts no later than Thursday of this week. If you are sitting at dinner on Saturday night and you think to yourself, wow, I got to run 26.2 miles in the morning, I should probably start hydrating. It's too late. So starting on Thursday of this week and making sure that you are prioritizing hydration. So, at a bare minimum, let's say hitting half of your body weight in daily ounces ingested or intake is a good starting point. And then we talk about race weekend. This is really where the fun begins, right? So again, touching on knowing how and when you're going to be arriving in New York. What is your plan for food? Where will you eat? When will you eat? Many of you that are running for charity have team events that you're going to where food will be provided. That's awesome. If you have allergy concerns, you want to make sure with your charity coordinator, your contact with the organization, or with the restaurant itself, you want to make sure that they can accommodate any sort of allergy concerns. But it's also important that you don't want to rely solely on the food that's being provided at your team event. And if it's at all possible, or certainly if you're staying in the city at a hotel or whatever, whatever the case may be, bringing your own food, or once you get settled, going out and making a grocery run to get some foods that are familiar, and getting those in your hotel is ideal. And then as we roll into the race expo, again, I think most of you are running for charity, so I know that your charity coordinators have done a really good job of letting you know about the expo, but it's just important to note that you have to pick up your race packet and bib and participant shirt, timing chip that's on your bib at some point on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday of this week. There is no race day option. You're not able to have somebody else come and pick that up for you. So please plan on getting there within those 3 days at some point. Again, it's also important to consider, how are you going to get to and from the expo? When is that going to happen? Scheduling that in is what you'll want to do. Again, with any sort of race, certainly a big race like the New York City Marathon, the expo is an event in and of itself. There's going to be a lot of vendors there, sampling different types of gels or chews or energy shots or what have you. And so if it's something that you've never had before, again, we don't want to be trying anything a day or 2 or 3 even before race day. It's important to know the course. It's probably not realistic to be able to drive the course beforehand, but you can find the video of the New York City Marathon course online, whether it be on the race website or on YouTube, or at the very least going on the New York City Marathon website and taking a peek at the course map, just so you have an idea of what you're in store for, or what's in store for you, rather, on Sunday. And then as we roll into race morning, that's really right, the time to change your life. You're getting ready, the time has come to do something incredible, something that may have seemed impossible at the start of this process. At this point is inevitable. You're there, you've woken up, you've set multiple means of getting up in addition to just your smartphone. So if you're staying in a hotel, you've had the hotel a wake-up call scheduled, you've had family members call you. This would be the point where it would be very important to mention that daylight savings time does go into effect, I want to say, at 2 a.m. approximately on Sunday. So you will be gaining an hour, so that's in our favor. You'll be gaining an hour on Sunday morning. You won't be losing one, but that's also important to note because that can throw a lot of people. That always happens on the New York City Marathon race morning. So wake up. It's probably, you want to wake up as early as it's going to be. There's going to be early wake up calls as you have to get up early to make your transportation to Staten Island. But I would recommend waking up and getting something to eat, something a little bit substantial. I put an example here, something like oatmeal with a banana. Might be kind of hard to do that, but you want to look at race morning as something where you're going to almost essentially be eating two breakfasts that look similar to an oatmeal with banana. Obviously, by now, you should know how you're going to be getting from where you're staying to Start Village. So you either had to make your transportation selection when you registered, or you have some other means of getting there. So if you are taking private transportation to Staten Island, I highly encourage you to jump on the New York City Marathon website and just make sure that you're familiar with all the rules with getting dropped off. Security will be super tight on race morning at Staten Island, so you just want to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Obviously, we talked about earlier about having extra clothes. So you're going to want to have throwaway clothes to wear before the race starts. So these are clothing items that you'll wear while you're waiting in the Staten Island, the Start Village, and that you get rid of when the race starts. And then we'll talk a little bit more in depth about Start Village and getting settled into that. But once you're in your corral and it's almost time to go, the start gun is about ready to go off, it's time to really start focusing on the race. And this is the time, a point in time that I encourage you to start visualizing how you're going to execute your race plan. There's going to be a lot of nervous energy, understandably, and it's a very exciting time. And it's also a time where it would be really easy to let the moment kind of take us over. So I encourage you to do some deep breathing, close your eyes at least for a little bit of it. Ideally, by this point, you will have already done your warm up in the Start Village, and you're just kind of chilling out and focusing and just trying to stay calm at this point. So a little bit more depth about Start Village and Fort Wadsworth, Staten Island. I know, especially for those of you who will be running your first New York City Marathon, this tends to be a little bit of an anxiety-provoking part of the race. And before I ran my first New York City Marathon, I would say I was right in the same boat with you. But it's a very well-oiled machine process in terms of getting you to the start, getting you to Staten Island. And then really once you get through security, everybody's just kind of chilling out. So once you get through security, it's super relaxed. But once you get through security, I would recommend, use the restroom, whatever you need to do, and then find a spot in Start Village near where where your corral is going to go off, and just relax and just try to stay warm. Obviously we all know by now our start time, our wave, our corral, etc. So plan on about 60 to 90 minutes prior to race start eating again. So something like that something like that meal would be like a bagel with peanut butter or honey with an apple, or like an apple with peanut butter or almond butter, something like that. So again, that will, if you follow my recommendation, that would really be kind of like the second time you've eaten. And so again, we're eating when we wake up. For some of you, that may be like really, really early, 5 o'clock, if not before then. And then we're eating again about 60 to 90 minutes. If you have a sensitive stomach, then I would recommend pushing it more towards like the 90-minute. You can go down to that 60-minute timeline if you're able to handle it and you don't usually have an upset stomach before running. Before running if you have eaten. So you want to continue to hydrate up until about an hour before the race start. I would say stop hydrating. Definitely a hard stop at 45 minutes, ideally at 60 minutes, at 30 to 45 minutes prior to the race start. That's when you want to start your warm up. Usually for me, I like to do that at about the 30-minute mark. And then 15 to 30 minutes, it might be advisable to use the restroom again before you get into the corral and you don't really have the opportunity to do that. So this is really my suggested timeline. You got to make it work for you. But I would just want to re-emphasize that once you get through security, it's really kind of a relaxed and fun environment. It's a lot of energy. You'll have the opportunity, if you want, to meet a lot of people from, whether it be the charities that you're, other runners that are running for the same organization, or just, there's just thousands of people that are just there, obviously, and excited to run the race just like you. So take it for what it's worth, enjoy it, but it's definitely not a stressful part of the process. So just kind of go along with it, go with the flow, and all will be good. Obviously, you're going to want to have your Start Village bag with you to carry your personal belongings. So these will get issued to you at the expo. You'll get one of two bags. If you're checking a bag at Start Village, you'll be given what's called a UPS bag. UPS is a sponsor. It's a little bit of a bigger bag. Or if you are doing a post-race poncho, excuse me, then you'll get a different clear bag, not quite as big. I want to emphasize here that these are the only bags that you'll be able to bring into Start Village. They're clear, they're issued by the race. You can't bring your own backpack or bag or whatever. So everything that you bring with you, nutrition, hydration, extra change of clothes, or the clothes that you're going to run in, they got to fit into that clear bag. And then we talk about the race. This is the time to settle into a strong but realistic pace. Take the first few miles to settle. We're not out to set a 10K or a 5K or a 10K PR. It is super easy to get lost in the pageantry and just the excitement that is the New York City Marathon. But we want to stay focused. We want to stay calm and just fall into a realistic pace. Hey, the New York City Marathon is the largest marathon in the world, so of course it's going to be crowded, but we want to resist the urge to weave in and out of runners. No unnecessary mileage. It's also, of course, the time to execute your nutrition hydration strategy. This is a strategy that you've been practicing all throughout training. So if you're bringing your own hydration, whether it be like a hydration belt, or you plan on taking water and Gatorade and gels that are on the course, awesome. You've got that all figured out by now. It's also important to note that each aid station, hydration station, is a couple city blocks long. So you might as well skip the first few tables to avoid the crowds. You'll see runners making a beeline for the first table or two. It's really easy to get tripped up, and you want to avoid that. So I would encourage you to skip the first couple tables of Gatorade and water and find a little bit less crowded spot. We want to certainly throughout the race, we want to try to stay positive and embrace the fact that there's going to be peaks and valleys along the way. And the start is really an incredible time. It's a time to be excited. You're kind of falling into a pace that is comfortable for you. You're engaging with the various communities throughout the city and the various boroughs, and you're drawing energy and inspiration from other runners and the fans and from internally. But there are going to be times where parts of the race that maybe don't go as well for you, where you're not feeling great, or you just find yourself being challenged mentally, and that's okay. That is completely normal. And so in my next bullet point, I point out, consider using a mantra. something silly, something funny. It's okay. It doesn't have to be something incredibly creative. It can just be something as simple as, I've got this, or something like let go of that fear, or let go of that um, self-limiting belief, whatever it is, or I'm strong. Again, it's got to be something that resonates with you, but mantras can be something super simple and powerful. And remember, you didn't just show up for this. You've been working your tails off. This didn't just happen by chance. You didn't just get to the marathon by chance. The marathon is a great enough distance where you can't fake your way through training. So just have confidence in knowing that when you're in that start village and you're at the start line, you've earned that moment. You've earned that moment. And again, it's cliche, but it rings true. While you're running the race, you want to just take 1 mile at a time. So again, revisiting that theme of navigating the ups and downs of 26.2 miles. Um, that's awesome. The ups are incredibly uplifting. The crowd is going to be engaging. I think there's something like 3+ million spectators along the course. New York City Marathon will have 50,000 plus participants. And so there's going to be inspiration anywhere and everywhere you look. But in order to get through 26.2 miles, it's going to be there's going to be obviously a huge physical aspect of that, um, but even greater than that is going to be the mental aspect. So what are you going to do, and how are you going to navigate those downs, those valleys, not those peaks, but those valleys? And so I encourage you to, again, adopt a mantra, and one that has really resonated with me and with a lot of my athletes this year is something very simple. And you see it here on the screen, and it just goes something like, so what, now what, move forward. So what, mile 16 was hard. And so what, you freaked out that you had 10 more miles to go. Now what are you going to do in mile 17? Make mile 17 better than mile 16. So what if you're having a freak out moment at mile 20 because you've never ran further than 20 miles and it's, uncharted waters, so to speak. What are you going to do? You're going to make mile 20 to 21 great. You're going to make it your best mile of the race. So I just encourage you, it doesn't have to be this, but if you're searching for something and mantras resonate with you, I encourage you to adopt this one. So when you find yourself in a tough time on Sunday, so what, now what? What am I going to do? I'm going to move forward. So some race day strategy, running the tangents are really important, and you can see the little diagram on the right. We don't want to go, there's a lot of twists and turns to the New York City Marathon course. And again, you want to jump on the website and check out the course or watch the video. You can find that on YouTube. But we don't want to go with the ebbs and flows of and the various twists and turns. We want to try to really kind of stay in the middle. If you can really stay in the middle of the race course, and it's important to run tall. So it's super easy, especially as we get tired in the later miles, for our shoulders to droop and for our chin to drop and for us to tend to just kind of like look at what's just a couple feet in front of our feet. But if you do that, not only are you not going to be taking in as much oxygen as you need to, but you're not going to see the various turns, and you're going to end up running like the runner on the left, who's kind of just going with the ebbs and flows of the race. So run tall, look ahead, know where the turns are, stay in the middle of the course, and try to actually run 26.2 miles. Because if we run and we go with the twists and turns, like on the left, on the diagram on the left, then you're going to actually run further than 26.2 miles. And I don't know about you, but that does not interest me at all. I did not sign up to run an ultra on Sunday. I signed up to run a marathon. So we want to run the tangents. And so I think that diagram does a really great job of describing that. And then with these big city marathons, the tangents or really the way that the runner runs these twists and turns on the right, there is a line that's painted throughout the course on the New York City Marathon course, and that's how they measure the course. So if you're wondering while you're out there, just look for the painted line along the course, and that will keep you on the right track. And there will be opportunities. Certainly, there's it's a crowded race course. There's a lot of runners. But there will be opportunities out there to pass. And so twists and right turns, left turns, curves, those are great opportunities actually to pass, because what runners tend to do in those situations is they slow down, and then it takes them, a quarter mile to kind of get back into that pace that they were at before. So take this as an opportunity to kind of like when you're driving your car, when you have a turn coming up, you slow down going into the turn and you accelerate out. And so I encourage you to do the same thing when you're out there on the course. If you have the opportunity to, and when I say pass wide, just making sure that you're not going to run into anybody, that's the time to speed into the turn. And then as you come out of the turn, it's not continuing with that increased pace. It's then easier to decelerate down a little bit and to get back into that pace that is comfortable and conversational, or back into our desired race pace. And then we talk about the bridges. So this is the various bridges that you have to navigate on along the course. And the one thing I would just say about the bridges, they can be challenging, they can be disorienting. It's very noisy. There's thousands of runners, so you're hearing people's footfalls, you're hearing runners breathing. There's helicopters hovering up above from a security standpoint. So it's really easy to lose yourself in that moment and kind of get overwhelmed. So I think as I thought about what I was going to say about the bridges, I think the best advice I can give you all is to any sort of incline, just try to don't focus on what pace you're running. Just focus on your effort. Keep the effort the same as you do when you're just running on level ground. So keep the effort the same. Of course, the pace will slow as you go up inclines, but keep the effort the same so you don't blow it all, obviously, running on the bridges. And then this is a great time. Take it as an opportunity to check back in with your breathing. Mentally, how are you doing? Check back in with that mantra that you've had. And don't just go on autopilot. Really engage with what you're feeling and what's going on around you. And just realize that there's nothing that you can do to control the person that's next to you who's breathing super loud, or there's nothing you can do about the really loud helicopter that's hovering up ahead. All that you can do is just focus on each footfall, and so just stay within your limits. Keep your effort the same throughout, and that is probably my best advice when navigating the various bridges along the course. And then we talk about post-race. Really, that's the time, right? That's the time to celebrate. You have just achieved something that, gosh, only 1% of the world's population has done. I know it feels like, gosh, everybody that you know or that are in our world, as runners, we tend to socialize and interact with other runners who've done marathons. So it seems like everybody's done a marathon. I don't know if that feels that way to you all, but certainly to me, it's like, gosh, everybody I know has done a marathon. But the truth is only 1% of the world's population has done a marathon. So what you're going to accomplish, whether this is your 50th marathon or your first, puts you truly in rarefied air. So that's really cool. And starting off right here on this slide, the expert tip that I like to share is, when you cross the finish line and you get to a volunteer and it's your opportunity to get that New York City Marathon finisher's medal, I encourage you to have that volunteer put that around your neck instead of just grabbing it from them. The finish line volunteers are some of the best that you'll find along the course. So as long as you kind of tilt your head down, maybe put your hands behind your back, they'll know exactly what you're wanting. So that's something that I think just kind of puts the exclamation point on the entire experience. Of course, immediately after finishing, the overwhelming urge will be to sit down and stop moving. This is really one of the worst things that you can do. You want to keep moving, and really, there's not even going to be an opportunity to stop and sit down right away. They have volunteers throughout the finisher chute, ushering all the runners along, because obviously there's thousands of runners finishing at any given moment, or hundreds of runners finishing at any moment. Have a plan in place for how you're going to reunite with family and friends. I would say this: tell whoever is planning on meeting with you after the race that it realistically could take you 30 to 40 minutes once you cross the finish line, before you're out of kind of like the finisher chute, and back to where the meetup area is. And this would also be the opportunity to say, or the time that I should say, have your supporters, whether they're going to be on site on Sunday, or if they're just somewhere else in the world, encourage them to download the New York City Marathon app to track your progress throughout. And so that app is pretty good about getting a real-time feel for when people are going to be at certain points, and certainly that'll be a good kind of opportunity to know when you're finishing. So download the app, and then also, I mean, as a participant, I would say download the app because there's a lot of really great information in the palm of your hand there, and then have your supporters download it as well. This may not happen, but I throw it on there because it's in an ideal world, try to eat a full meal within a couple hours of finishing the race. Again, how are you going to get from the finishers area back to the hotel or wherever you're staying in the city or wherever? I do encourage, if you can that night before going to bed, get in. It doesn't have to be like super cold, but like, for example, if you're staying in a hotel, maybe getting a couple bags of ice from the ice machine, filling up the bathtub with some just cold water, putting the ice in there and sitting in there for a good 15 to 20 minutes will really jumpstart the healing or the recovery process. And I should say, continuing to move throughout the rest of the day will also accelerate the recovery process. If you are, I know it's really tempting to, once you get back to, let's just say for those of you staying in a hotel, and you're going to stay, and let's say you're leaving Monday, it's really tempting to get back to your hotel, get cleaned up, and just like lay down. And I get that. I've been there, done that. But if you want to just accelerate the recovery and feel better on Monday, and for really just the 3 to 4 days post race, you want to keep moving. And so again, keep moving with some light stretching if you can. If you're getting a massage, I would encourage you to wait until Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week, just to account for any sort of delayed onset muscle soreness. Getting a massage on Monday is probably too quick. Your body, again, just needs that time to heal. And then, of course, it's time to take inventory of what went well and really what you can improve on, not only on race day, but certainly in your training. And if you have a training log, that's the time, these next couple of weeks is the time to kind of pour through that and, see where your areas of opportunity, where areas of improvement are. And then we just have a couple quotes here. You can read through those at your own leisure, but I'll just highlight the first one there. And it goes back to all of us earning this moment, and not showing up on Sunday by accident. And I'm sure a lot of you have some pretty ambitious goals, which I think is amazing. You should have goals, but those goals should be realistic. And so the quote of "we don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training," I think is very appropriate. You know what you've done up to this point. Hopefully most of you have been able to hit on most of your workouts. I realize that life does happen, and we're all human beings, imperfect, and no training cycle is going to be perfect, and that's cool, that's fine. But rising to the level of our expectations is not usually the tendency. We tend to fall to the level of our training. So if you've done the work, you should feel really good about what's going to happen for you on Sunday. And then remember, when all else fails, certainly through those dark and troubling times in the race, something as simple as keep moving forward, or just knowing with every single footstep that you take, you're getting that much closer to the finish line. Yes, it may be 25 miles away. Yes, it may be 10 miles away, or it might be, a 5K, which seems like 100 miles away. But every single step you take does get you closer to that finish line. And so just trust in that and knowing that. And I think in those moments of just really adversity, that will give you a little bit of peace. So with that, I encourage all of you to stay connected. So what I always love to do is I love to hear from all my athletes after the race. So I encourage you to shoot me an email there. You've got my email address, Coach Kopf at Kopf Running. I encourage you to shoot me an email. Just tell me how it went. Gosh, if you want to send a couple pictures, I always love seeing those. But let's connect after the race. Let me know how it goes. And I'm just really excited for all of you. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of your training journey and what you're about to do. I mean, we're all getting ready to run in the world's largest marathon, and there's no other marathon, there's no other race or marathon like the New York City Marathon. So the thing that I always note is, none of us will be able to catch a pass from Tom Brady or insert your favorite quarterback, or none of us will be able to catch a bounce pass from LeBron James or insert your favorite basketball player. But we all on Sunday will be running with some of the world's greatest athletes. Yes, albeit we'll be very far behind them, but some of the world's greatest runners run in the New York City Marathon. So we get to be a part of that, and we're just as much of a part of that as they are. So you all are inspiring to me. Keep inspiring. Don't let Sunday's finish line in Central Park be the finish line for you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep supporting these great organizations if you're running for charity. And if you need anything from me between now and Sunday, please do reach out. And with that, the presentation has concluded, and I will open it up for questions, comments, or concerns. So if we have any questions, comments, there is the chat box. So I would encourage you just to type that in if you have any. Certainly if you don't have any, that's cool. If you think of anything between now and Sunday, the best way to connect with me would be over email. I make it a priority to respond to emails within 24 hours, but usually it's much quicker than that. Certainly, if you have a question right now, go ahead. So I'll give another couple minutes, and then we'll let all of you on your way. Yeah, thank you guys. And so keep a close eye. Obviously, it goes without saying on the weather, and things can certainly change. And again, remember, daylight savings time is this Sunday. And okay, we have one question. So Nick asked, so you recommend having a full breakfast in the morning and then a normal pre-run nutrition an hour before the run. So I would just say, Nick, when you wake up in the morning, it would be advisable to get something in your stomach, just because like I'm looking at, like, I just think about my situation. So I am going to be running in the race. My start time's at 10:10 in the morning. I'm getting on the Midtown Manhattan bus at 5:30. I'm not staying very far away from that, but I'll be waking up probably before 5. So I want to get something in my stomach, and it can be something as simple as a piece of toast with like peanut butter or almond butter, or if you can handle it, like an quick oatmeal, something super quick, but will be digested certainly by the time the run starts. And then I would say, I would actually put that, Nick, it probably, to be safe, I would probably do like 90 minutes where something like, again, a piece of toast or a bagel that maybe you've packed in your clear bag with like a packet of almond butter or something that you can stand, or like a packet of honey that you can put on there that you can eat, that will be quickly digested. If you're like, wow, I can't, there's no way I can do that, then something as simple as like an apple or some sort of like bar, I think would be good. I just, from what I've seen and heard and found and personally experienced with New York, that, if you wait to eat until you get to the start village and get settled, you might find that that's not quite enough. But again, we're all different. So it's important to, listen to everyone, but follow no one. You have to kind of do what works for you. And Remy asks, how long of a warm-up run? What type of stretches do you recommend? Yeah, you're welcome, Nick. Yeah, so I mean, you can jog around the start village, Remy. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a run. And I wouldn't recommend any stretches before the race. You want to do more of a dynamic warm-up. So something like thinking along the lines of body weight squats, body weight lunges, forward and back and side to side, jumping jacks, toe lifts where you maybe lean against the wall and you're doing like calf raises. You want arm circles for your arms, neck rolls for your neck and shoulders, those types of things. And the warm up, and then you do that, and then if you want to run around Start Village a little bit for 10-15 minutes, that's okay. I don't know how much of that you'll be able to do because it is very crowded. So I would 30 minutes before your corral closes is when I would start that process. You could even push that out to 45 minutes to start that process, knowing that you might have to use the restroom one more time before you get into your starter corral. Hope that helps. Yeah, so hopefully, and again, I'm not a big fan of doing like static stretching before a run. I kind of feel like, we want to keep things springy for a lack of a technical term. So the dynamic warm up is really kind of where it's at. Yeah, you're welcome. Any more questions? All right, guys. Well, we are at 6:45 Central, 7:45 Eastern. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So again, I want to thank everybody for attending tonight's webinar. If you know somebody who's running on Sunday and is freaking out a little bit, I encourage you to point them towards this webinar. It will be posted later tonight to the Kopf Running YouTube page. So just Google Kopf Running YouTube or go to YouTube and just type in Kopf Running. And this will be available for playback and consumption later tonight. I will send out the link later this week, probably tomorrow. But again, if something pops up between now and Sunday, just drop me a message, shoot me an email. If you need to jump on a call, I'll be on a call. I will be traveling on Friday, so I will be out of it a little bit, but certainly will be available to get a hold of. So if I'm coming to one of your charity team events, for those of you running for a charity this weekend, I look forward to hopefully meeting you. And with that, have a great night, guys, and we'll see you soon. Good luck on Sunday.